Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome inside The Lock Shop. Dusty with you. Hustle be popping by shortly here as well. You can text us anytime, 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. Oh, man, I'm just getting back into the inbox here. You guys had some good discussions on the Hangout today. The very first text I see that's lingering around from the Hangout is, does it matter if 29 doesn't resign? Resign? What do you guys, what a great Hangout today. DVD, Tommy, Maddie on the Hangout. It'll be Cass and Gager joining me on Two Guys and a Goalie coming up here a little bit later on today on Edmonton Sports Talk. You can watch or listen live. If you just go to edmontonsportstalk.com and click watch live, that'll bring you right to the video portion, whatever we're live with. If you want to hop on there and listen live, you can listen live. You can listen live on TuneIn. You can listen live on iHeart as well. And, of course, you can watch everything that we do on YouTube, and everything after the fact is available as a podcast as well. Edmonton Oilers, Boston Bruins tonight. Got a little EST parlay that I put together. I'm sure the boys over at Coolbet are working on that one right now, so we'll get into that as we work our way through the show today. Duck Dad is in and says, the games in Champions League, holy value. Ipswich versus Bristol, BTTS over 2.5 at plus 135. Yes, please. That's like we're talking a little bit of a different language there. I see Jim on the Nancy chat says, Coolbet stole my money. Jim, just reach out to us. We'll figure out whatever's going on there. I have a feeling they probably didn't steal your money, but feel free to chime in and let me get you in touch with the Coolbet boys. There he is, Huss, Winnipeg Jets. What's going on, buddy?
Game day here. We got the Kraken in town. They're going back to back after playing the Flames last
And the Oilers
night.
got a back-to-back opponent tonight, too, with the Boston Bruins.
Yes, Bruins. Wow, Boston's in Edmonton tonight.
No, they're back home. They went back to Boston. The Oilers were waiting for them there.
I mixed that up where that game was tonight. That probably makes a bit more sense on the odds then.
It does.
They looked good last night. I watched that game. I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of Leaf fans are saying, yeah, let's just go playoff time. We'll be good to go. But
and that's tough to say against the Bruins, all right? The Bruins have owned them. Like, that's a tough one to swing if you're a Leafs fan.
Well, I love how Biz Nasty's calling out. Like, he's a big Leafs guy. He's like, we want the Bruins in round one. Are you sure, Biz? Are you sure? Like, I'll be honest. I mean, and this is still a little ways away when we get to playoffs and start breaking down series and whatnot. But Boston reminds me, of those teams that have these incredible seasons and then flame out early, and then people sort of write them off the next year.
Yeah, it happens quite often.
Make this happen. I mean, we saw it when to go way back. I mean, remember when Colorado picked up Ray Bourque? They got him. This was his run. They didn't win. He came back the next year and they won. I mean, you look at Florida, and this is an interesting conversation around the deadline. The year before last year,
they were awesome.
They traded their first round picks from 24, from 25. They made some questionable deals. They got bounced. Then last year, they couldn't do anything, and they go all the way to the Cup final. Like, it's the history will tell you that the Boston Bruins, albeit without Bergeron and without Krejci, should not be underestimated come playoff time. That being said, a weird night last night in the National Hockey League.
It was a weird night, wasn't it?
Certainly wasn't good for us. Like Columbus beating Vegas. Vegas is up against it right now.
That's alarms going off for Vegas, isn't it? You go into Columbus when you've been kind of free-falling a little bit and you're falling behind the Edmonton Oilers, and the Los Angeles Kings are knocking on the door. Eichel returns, and you lose 6-3 in Columbus against a team that basically has just been playing out the stretch the entire bloody season. Like that one of all the games, like if we just quickly look at last night's games, and hey, if you're listening right now and you want to chime in, there's going to be a lot of hockey talk on Lock Shop today. You're going to love it. 780-218-9999. Hit us up in the nasty chat. I see that's already flying over there today as well. Last night in the National Hockey League, Blue Jackets 6-3 over the Golden Knights. Bruins roll into Toronto ahead of their game against Edmonton tonight. Beat them 4-1. Florida doubles up the Rangers 4-2. A Barkov assist. We'll get to that when we get to that game. The Blues beating the Flyers 2-1 in a shootout. Colorado takes care of business. That puck line was 2.5 to get any sort of value on it. Would have been a no sweater. They win 5-0. And then the Seattle Kraken going into Calgary, stopping the Flames' 5-game winning streak, doubling them up 4-2 last night. Huss, Vegas getting done the way they did in Columbus by the Jackets is probably the most surprising result. But what else stood out for you last night?
Well, that was the early one. And again, I was just sort of following that along, watching the Bruins and Leafs. I mean, the Bruins looked great. And again, they've lost 13 games in regulation all season long. Now, what's funny is that they have lost 14 games in over 3-on-3 or a shootout. But it is important to remind people that the Stanley Cup playoffs do not include 3-on-3 overtime or shootouts.
Yeah.
So I think that was a little bit of a reality check for the Leafs and probably a get-right game for Boston because, again, they've just been going to overtime and losing over and over and over again over the course of these past three weeks or so. I mean, the game of the night was the Panthers and the Rangers. And by the way, Sam Reinhart now has 44 goals on the season. He's going to get 50, and he's a UFA. Timing, kids, is everything. He's definitely going to secure the bag. And yes, that ridiculous play that Barkov made.
Man, come on, like
that's got to be right up there with the top assists for the entire season.
Has to be. I'm trying to think of another time. And look, we live with the human apple machine here in Edmonton. Like Connor McDavid has a lot of very nice assists. Yeah. But when I saw that one last night, I instantly was like, assist of the year. Like, how's it supposed to get much better? He flips it over a guy, bats it down as he's falling, throws it across. That checks a lot of boxes off of the creativity scale right there for Barkov.
So anyways, the Panthers get it done again. They kind of strengthen their hold on the top of the league in the President's Trophy race. And then there was the late game, the Kraken and the Flames. I guess it was bound to happen sooner or later for the Flames to fall off. I mean, they had been playing really well and winning games that people did not think they were going to win. I mean, dating back to the Battle of Alberta a couple weeks ago. I mean, that comeback win against Pittsburgh. Like, I'll give them a lot of credit for the guys that are still there that are playing, especially with all the trade rumors around. But I mean, let's face it, what everyone's talking about tonight is Pospisil and that hit on Vince Dunn.
Yeah.
I can't imagine he's got many fans in Edmonton. I can tell you he doesn't here in Winnipeg. I mean, I always thought he was a bit of a prototypical rat. He was taking runs at guys throughout the preseason, and he took a cheap shot on Cole Perfetti in an exhibition game between the Jets and the Flames earlier this year, where he just skated by and just clipped Perfetti with his shoulder right in the chin, blindside, knocked him out, believe he missed a game or two, was BS. So when I see him do that last night, I can't say that I'm surprised. What I didn't know, and I mean, this is going to be problematic for a guy that wants to play like that. Apparently, he's got a concussion history, and one of the concussions happened in a fight. So he doesn't like to fight.
He doesn't, just runs around.
Well, guess what? If you're going to run guys like that, you're not going to have an option to fight or not. And the Kraken were pissed. Dave Paxton called it garbage after the game. And to the surprise of absolutely nobody, Pospisil's getting a hearing from NHL player safety. I have not heard whether it's an in-person or a phone hearing. But let's spin the wheel. I mean, what are we thinking for this one?
Man, not even the wheel can figure it out, right? The wheel's random, and not even the wheel can randomly hit on these sometimes. So, I mean, I don't know. It's not in person, so what is it? 3 games? There you go, 3 games here. Your guess is as good as mine at this point, man. It's kind of ridiculous.
I'll go 4. I mean, as I say, who the hell knows? Who the hell knows anymore?
There's just certain things in hockey that's so easy to not do, and that was one of them. Right? You just didn't need to do that, right? This was not a play where you're like, oh, it's in that little bit of a gray area. No, it's not. Straight up dirty cheap shot, like. So
no, not at all. And I mean, completely avoidable, incredibly dangerous. Exactly the kind of thing that the NHL is trying to get out of the game. So we will see. We will see what happens. Hey, I know we're going to dive into all these games.
Yeah, we do. We got a
By the way,
big
I'm
slate,
going to have to touch on the Briar. The Briar is drunk. Like the Briar, usually it's the fans that are drunk. The entire event is drunk right now. Kevin Cooey's 1-4.
What has happened to Kevin Cooey at this event, Mick?
The craziest upsets.
When was the last time you remember a guy falling apart like that had those expectations coming into this thing? Like,
I mean, listen, I wouldn't be a great historian of this event. I'm sure it's probably happened. There's been some teams that are highly ranked that have really just not played well. But I mean, to be 1-4 right now, and listen, the game last night against Gushu, I mean, Gushu's the best in the world, so like whatever. But it was the other 3 losses. But the fact that he's basically playing out the stretch on Tuesday is frankly, I mean, that would have been like 100-1. For, if you bet it, or, if there was some sort of prop that Hot Dog could put together, Kevin Cooey over under 1.5 wins in his first 5 games.
The odds of that would have been insane. You could have retired off of that.
Yeah, totally. So I'm we'll get into that a little bit later on. We'll take a look at the afternoon draw, but we all know what the big conversation is this week. It is the trade deadline. As far as Winnipeg goes, I heard from Elliot Friedman this morning, and he said the Jets are very much looking into adding a winger that could potentially fit in the top 6. I mean, I guess who isn't really at this point? Still think that they'd like to do something on the blue line as well. And we're going to talk about this with Dave Manuk, who covers the Moose, coming up. Just about the prospects that the Winnipeg Jets have and what they might be willing to move out of the system on Friday if they're going to pick up somebody. Because as I said, they've already traded that first round pick. Now they do have some very, very highly regarded first rounders that are playing right now. It ain't going to be Rucker McGroarty, I can tell you that much. It's not going to be Elias Salmonson. Colby Barlow, who they picked last year, I think was just on a 18 goals in 19 games stretch. And they love how, he would project to fitting into the culture of the team. So I don't think they're keen to move him. But I do wonder about Brad Lambert, Chibrikov, who's down with the Moose right now, who both had real solid seasons as rookies in the American League. So we're going to sort of get into that. But where's the wind blowing in Edmonton today on the Nielsen Show? The text line. What are people? Well, first of all, what are people that are actually around the team kind of reporting that the Oilers are legitimately looking to do? And then we can kind of get into how they make that happen, because they're in a unique situation where they do not have any wiggle room whatsoever with the cap.
It has been, it's been relatively quiet-ish, I would think, so far this week. I know some people yesterday were talking about, man, did you see Friedman said that the Oilers, a first and CC for Tanev, and we talked about that a little bit yesterday, and that was something that kind of broke last week. We talked about on the Oil Stream last week that the first and CC would be in play in a possible Sean Walker deal. It'll be interesting to see, because you talked about some of the futures for the Winnipeg Jets and what could end up happening there. The Oilers have some younger guys, like Dylan Holloway looks like he's going to be an NHL player for a long time. Buzzes around, hasn't produced anything so far, like offensively, but that's a name that people get a little worried about possibly moving. They've got Broberg, who hasn't been able to stick in the National Hockey League yet, but apparently has made good strides in the American League this year. And if you bring his name up, some people might view it a little bit as a non-starter. But the bottom line is, and I think Stoff, who we like to refer to as friend of Edmonton Sports Talk since he hopped on the hangout, friend of EST.
Only when you're off the show.
Yeah, exactly. For now. One day the worlds will collide, and Stoff and I will be on a show together.
Friend of everybody at EST except for Dustin Nielsen.
Yeah. I don't know. He just doesn't like me, maybe. I don't know. But he was saying basically what everybody's already discussing is that, in a perfect world, top 6 forward, bottom 6 forward, some sort of defenseman. But checking off 3 boxes at the deadline is a lot easier said and a lot easier dreamed than actually done. So we were talking about it with Button this morning on the Nielsen show, saying like, what is the bare minimum for the Oilers to get done for the deadline to be considered a success? And he said he would like to see them add, some size and some speed in the bottom 6. And I'll tell you right now, and you know how it is in the Canadian market, if the only thing the Oilers do prior to the deadline is acquire one bottom 6 forward, there is zero chance of that deadline being viewed as a success here in Edmonton. So I think they have to. They either have to land an upgrade on Cody Ceci on the blue line, or a top 6 forward, and that should make people happy. We know that they're like going down a lot of paths. Ken Holland is always on the phone with everybody. I mean, there's nothing that he doesn't kind of, overturn along the way. It's just a matter of if they can get it done. So there's a lot of pressure here. One of the things we're going to talk on 2 guys today, Husson, we can limit it here in the Lock Shop maybe to the Canadian cities, the Canadian markets, but you look at Vancouver, you look at, you can even look at it from the other way, from a seller's perspective. Which Canadian team do you think should be or needs to be the busiest prior to the deadline?
Well, I think conventional wisdom says Calgary.
As a seller, right? Yeah.
And, listen, they've already done Lindholm. They've already done Tanev. Those were their 2 big pieces. But, you would think that there's still pretty good demand for Hanifin. And then the whole Markstrom thing. Like, Markstrom, it's like he didn't want to be traded for a long time. Then he found out that maybe they were listening a little bit. And now it's like he wants out. And obviously the timing of that, his press conference going into the Kiprasov celebrations, I don't think was taken too kindly.
Probably not the best timing for that one.
When it comes from the sellers, Ottawa is the other team that, they've been so disappointed this year. They've got a new management group that's got the ability to put their stamp on the team. It sounds like Jacob Chikrin may very well be on the move again because, and I can understand it. You come here, hey, let's see how things go. I got 2 years left on my deal. Well, you didn't make the playoffs last year, and this year's been a massive, massive disappointment. Are you keen to re-up? I know your grandma's around, but you probably need a little bit more than that. So with that being uncertain, I would think that they would try to recoup some of the assets that they gave up for Chikrin and try and change things up a little bit. There's a lot of young talent on Ottawa, though. I'm just not too sure how significantly they want to change it up and change the roster. As far as the contending teams go, listen, I would probably say, like, who's got the ability to do it is Winnipeg. Winnipeg is in a way better cap situation than either the Leafs or the Oilers are. Now they have made a move and they've given up that 1st round pick, which is always kind of where you start with draft capital. But as I mentioned, they've got a lot of really high end prospects that teams would be interested in getting. They've got Montreal's 2nd pick, which is pretty close to a 1st rounder. It'll be in the top 40, and some pretty obvious needs. Like, both the Oilers and the Leafs are in difficulty just because of the cap. The thing is, if you want to give me a scenario where the Oilers acquire 2 or 3 players, but you're at least getting 2 of those players off the books. And I think most of these selling teams don't want guys just for
try not to bring somebody back. Yeah.
And what that does is raise the price of acquisition.
Yeah.
If you're, no
like
different
the Fogle thing. The Fogle thing would be interesting because he's a UFA at the end of year 2. Right. So these teams don't want guys that are still going to be under contract next year. They could probably swallow a contract if they can walk away from it in July.
Yeah.
Right? That would help a little bit, I think.
Well, that's probably what the CC issue was with Calgary.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. That's
they didn't want that extra year.
Well, the problem is, even from an Oilers perspective, I didn't necessarily like that because you bring in Tanev, he walks at the end of the year. You don't have CC anymore. Then your right side is Bouchard, Desharnais, and nobody else. And do you have the money to go out and get another defenseman to come in and play? Or are you just going to elevate Desharnais to be a top 4 guy next year? And I'm not sure that's really ready either. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Hey, while we're here, this is an interesting exercise. And let's just do this right now because everyone, and I'm already seeing, like, I got fans in my timeline freaking out that the Jets haven't made any trades this week. after already getting Monahan 3 weeks ahead. Come on, Chevy, do something. I mean, and whatever. I mean,
That's what happens when you're a legitimate contender, though, right? Like,
absolutely. But here, this is not usually my forte, but sober second thoughts with Huss. Let's look back. Let's look back to the 2022 trade deadline. So we're going to go back 2 years. I'm just going to read out all of these trades. Let's see if any of these really were those difference makers that put a team over the top. Minor League Lightning. The Ducks got Dadonov. That was the infamous trade that then didn't turn around.
Good move.
AHL trade, a minor league goalie. The Lightning got Riley Nash from the Coyotes. The Stars got our guy Vlad Nemestikov from the Red Wings. Ryan Carpenter went to the Flames from the Blackhawks. There was a 3-team trade, and the Canes got Max Domi. Yeah, and people were fired up about that. He didn't do anything.
Nope.
Ricard Raquel. Raquel was picked up from the Ducks, and Pittsburgh gave them Zach Aston Reese, Dominic Simon, a minor league goalie, and a second-round pick in 2022. And Ricard has done almost nothing, even playing with Sidney Crosby. I mean, he's a direct hot spot right now in Pittsburgh as to guys that aren't producing in places where guys traditionally do. Who can forget the Derek Brassard acquisition by the Oilers? 50% retained. Canucks got Tyler Mott. The one trade that was phenomenal from the seller's point of view was this Rangers-Jets trade. The Jets traded Andrew Kopp to the Rangers. The Jets got Morgan Barron, a 5th-round pick, a 2022 second-rounder, and a conditional second-rounder that became a first-rounder when the Rangers went to the conference finals. Now, the Rangers did get to the Final Four, and Kopp did have a nice playoff run. So you can say that it was working.
That's a really nice return, though.
That trade for Winnipeg has turned into Morgan Barron, who's got 10 goals now, playing only on the 4th line this year and killing penalties. I mean, he's definitely capable of probably playing higher up in the lineup. The pick that went into the first round ended up being 30th. The Jets got Brad Lambert when he fell to them there. And arguably their number 1/2 prospect in their entire organization, in Elias Salmonsson, who's in Sweden. He'll be coming over next year. Right shot defenseman. Don't see those very often.
Those are rare.
And then the 5th rounder that they picked on Thomas Milic, who's having a nice season his first year in a pro as a goaltender. So that was a huge win from the sellers. And I guess you could say a win-win, because what were they trying to do? They were trying to win, and the Rangers did have a nice run. I mean, the rest of these deals, Potato to the Sharks, Zach Sanford, Cogliano to the Avalanche. That actually was, I think, a trade.
That one that flew under the radar that helped. Yeah. Yep.
It made something happen. 3rd rounder for Johan Larsson, Arturi Lekkinen to the Avalanche for Justin Barron, and a 2nd rounder. That one went good, although Lekkinen, I think, again, was, one of those guys that, had a really nice run, and they won. The Blues, that was that big trade that had Jake Wallman, Sundqvist, and a 2nd rounder going for Leddy and Witkowski, but not much. I mean, Zach Senyshyn to the Sens. The Oilers got Brett Kulak in that deal. And he's actually, but I guess they traded Lagesson, a conditional 2nd rounder, and a 7th rounder.
Kulak's been good for them, though. They needed somebody to kind of stabilize their third pairing. That was a good pickup.
The Wild got Marc-Andre Fleury. He stuck around, and that was a conditional 1st rounder. 2nd rounder that became a 1st rounder, but it didn't. And then, you go through the rest of them. I mean, it's just a lot of the old 6th rounder for Jordy Ben trades that I've been talking to you about. I mean, there wasn't really those big ones, but there's a whole bunch of others that, when I think about what Florida did, they traded a 1st rounder for Ben Sherrod, lost him. They went so hard all in. What's funny, though, that a team like Florida can maybe get away with that a bit more, because they do have the ability, particularly with veteran players, to get them in, to sign them, and to keep them around, maybe because, well, guys frankly want to play there. And once they've been in the league for a bit, they go, yeah, you know what? Living in Fort Lauderdale is sunrise, and showing up at the rink in flip-flops actually sounds pretty good. But I guess the big thing is like there's a bunch of things that teams can do, but these teams are where they are because they're good and they've got good players. So, I mean, we're going to have a lot of fun with it over the next little bit, but listen, if your team doesn't make 2 or 3 big splashy additions, I wouldn't call the season over and then say it's done.
People are already doing that. If the Oilers don't get 3 players, it's over. It's a waste. So we'll see how this thing sorts itself out. But we got a big slate in the NHL tonight we can certainly get to. Haas, one more on the NHL story still here. What do you think about the New Jersey Devils?
They probably wish they'd done it earlier. I mean,
if you were going to do it earlier to try to save the season as opposed to now, yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty much cooked right now. But listen, I'll be buying Jersey next year. A bounce back season. I mean, I think last year might have been a little bit of an aberration to be as good as they were, as fast as they were, and to come back and beating the Rangers in the playoffs, I think maybe set their levels of expectations that much higher. But I mean, they had the opportunity to get Connor Hellebuck last summer. They didn't do it. They've got, I believe, an .891 save percentage this year. Second worst in the league. Guess what? No saves, no wins. So, I mean, what I am interested in, though, is Travis Green can, sort of show enough over the course of this last part of the season to be the guy moving forward, or they look for an entirely different coach and coaching staff next year. Lindy had a good run there.
Yeah, he did. I mean, considering that a lot of people wanted him gone at the beginning of last season and got the extension actually this year, so got himself a few more bucks before being shown the door. Travis Green will take over, and we'll see if he can manage to navigate things when they're missing blue liners and they don't have a goalie. Not an ideal spot there. I just saw a message from Patty. Should we get into that? Russell Wilson? And then come back to today's slate in the National Hockey League.
Yes.
Russell Wilson, speaking of bad transactions, Russell Wilson will be leaving the Denver Broncos with a cap penalty of about $85 million that they'll be able to divvy up over a couple of seasons. Gave up 9th overall pick and a 5th overall pick, plus a bunch of other picks and 3 players to get their hands on Russell Wilson. Coolbet.
Worst trade in NFL history. I don't think there's any question.
Has to be. Like, it's absolutely insane. Here's the full numbers on it. I got it right here. We were discussing it this morning. To get Russell Wilson for what ended up being 2 years in which he did make $124 million over those 2 years, they gave up in the 2022 draft the 9th overall pick, the 40th pick, and the 145th pick. And then in a year in which they had him, they still sucked and gave up the 5th overall pick and the 37th pick. Then also gave up Drew Lock, Noah Fant, Shelby Harris. He won 11 games for them, and now they get hit with an $85 million cap penalty as well. Thanks for coming in, man. Sorry, Derek Van Dies was just leaving. Like, that has to be, I think it's up there for one of the worst trades in sports history, let alone the National Football League. What a bloody disaster.
Well, and what we didn't mention was that he came in, he had 2 years on his contract. They gave him an extension that they'll be paying $85 million in dead cap, paying him $39 million cash this year not to play for them. He will never play a single game on the extension.
Oh, that's right.
The extension is just starting right now. So, and by the way, George Patton, the guy that did all that, still there.
Which is amazing that guy still gets to call some shots. Like, that's insane to me.
He's got some nudes of John Elway in a folder somewhere.
You know what?
Something like that.
The bottom line is nudes are very valuable to have in your possession, buddy. That's as a, for young businessmen out there, as you work your way up to your career, collect nudes. And it'll eventually lead to more opportunity for you. Now, Coolbet has posted which team, and they said they've got Saquon odds coming up and Justin Fields odds coming up. But right now, if you click on NFL and then go NFL offseason specials, which team will Russell Wilson sign his next contract with? The Pittsburgh Steelers are the favorites at minus 149. The Raiders at plus 250. Atlanta at plus 425. Then it falls off a little bit. You got the Patriots and Vikings at 10-1. You got the Bucks at 18-1. The Commanders at 20-1. Titans and Giants at 30-1. And the Chicago Bears, which is highly unlikely, I would think, at 40-1. Huss, what do you think of that board right there?
Well, I mean, listen, Pittsburgh makes sense. Although Pittsburgh has been outwardly saying that they're going to go forward with Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph and let them battle it out.
A bold take?
If I'm a Steelers fan, I don't know how fired up I am about that. Like, listen, I love the Raiders scenario is amazing. And I mean, again, I'm a Chiefs guy, so I hate the Broncos. I hate the Raiders. But if the Raiders were able to sign Russ to a $1 million contract and have him play the Broncos twice in a season where the Broncos are paying him $39, I think they would love that. And to be honest, you know, you've got the situation with Jimmy G. Like if Russ can play at a league average level, you know what that does to your ability to win if your quarterback is on the books for $1 million?
Does change quite a bit, yeah.
They're 40, 50 million.
The reverse entry-level deal situation.
It really is massive. So I do not count out the Raiders. The Falcons at 425 are interesting. I think he's definitely a third choice for Atlanta. Like Atlanta spent all this money on, you know, Drake London and Pitts and Robinson, the running back.
They got some good pieces there.
Guy. They absolutely need. And for Russ, I think it'd actually be a pretty attractive situation to go in to try to reestablish his value to sign a significant contract as a free agent the following year. But I think that they are focused in on, I've heard Kirk Cousins. And listen, I mean, I'd love to see Kirk stay in Minnesota. He kind of said all the right things at the end of the year going, hey, money's not that important to me. I've done really well. But I don't buy that I mean, there's no one that has played the market better in NFL history when it comes to getting paid than Kirk Cousins. And he is coming off an Achilles injury. I mean, it's kind of funny how the narrative is like everyone wants Kirk Cousins now after the guy's been taking shots from everywhere for a number of years. But Atlanta, with Justin Fields via trade or Kirk Cousins, probably is more likely than Russ. But I do understand why it's there. What's interesting to me is those next two teams, the Patriots and Vikings. Because I think there's a very good chance New England drafts a quarterback. It might not be, like if they get that Jalen Daniels, it might not be the worst thing to not rush him in and have him start right away. And if you bring in a guy like Russ on a very cheap deal, they should have a good defense. It'll allow them to spend something. So if they've got him on a $1 million deal and they've got Jalen Daniels on a rookie deal, you know, they will have some money to maybe be better at free agency and whatnot than they've been before. So I don't rule out New England. And I would say something very similar with the Vikes. Like the Vikes, it was very clear last year when Cousins went out, like they don't have the guy there right now. I know they played that guy that they drafted in whatever the 4th or 5th round for a couple games. He seems like a project, but we'll see. So, I mean, do the Vikings get Russ? And again, with the target of developing a young quarterback or two under KOC and buying themselves some time on a really cheap deal. So I don't rule out those.
You've made a couple of interesting cases, buddy. I'm not going to lie. You've made a couple of interesting cases.
Tampa, I think Baker's going to be back. They just re-signed. They did a new deal with Mike Evans, so that'll be good. And then everything below there, I mean, I fully expect the Commanders to pick Drake May or Daniels, whoever their choice is, and then the Patriots get the other guy, which also means Marvin Harrison Jr. very likely going to Kyler Murray, who apparently is sticking around with the Cardinals at 4. But listen, I love drafts like this are great because, you know, when you have a lot of high-end quarterbacks, the value of those top picks seem to be even greater. It sounds like Caleb Williams is going to the Bears. So that is going to start a domino effect. And the Fields, and while you're at it, let's get, I would love to see what the bookies have the numbers for Kirk Cousins at the same time. because it's funny. I think you'll see a bunch of these similar teams in the mix, quarterback needy teams, but maybe less so than kind of the ones that are drafting quarterbacks, the ones that will be there. But if I was going to lay a sprinkle right now, I think I go Raiders at plus 250, and then think about those 10 to 1s.
The bigger ones, yeah.
Think about those 10 to 1s for the Patriots or Vikings. And again, the Patriots have a brand new coach, so it's not like you're going in there with Belichick. And again, the Vikings, it would be more, geez, I guess we have to do this if we don't have Kirk Cousins, and they start working on through the draft a plan to draft and develop a quarterback moving forward.
What do you think? Hit us up in the nasty chat right now. Pat Maroon's bib says, no, please, no, not the Vikings, us. So Vikings fans keeping their fingers crossed on that one. Justin Fields odds coming, and Saquon Barkley odds coming as well. So you'll be able to find that over at NFL Pitch.
Let me just say this about Russ. He was not that bad last year, and I honestly believe that he was being actively sabotaged by Sean Payton throughout the year. I am not kidding. I am not kidding. Sean Payton was doing everything he could to, listen, he did not want Russell Wilson there, and because of the contract, I think he really knew that it needed to be bad. But I mean, midway through the season, when they started going on that run and winning games, I mean, he was, I think, 24 touchdowns, 4 picks. I mean,
he was good with the ball. He looked after the ball last year.
He was a serviceable starting NFL quarterback for a good portion of the season. And then again, they just benched him at the end of the year when they were still in the playoffs because they were worried about him getting hurt and then more of the guarantees kicking in for the contract moving forward. So I'll tell you what, if you don't have a quarterback, I don't think Russ on a $1 million deal is actually the worst thing that could happen to a team like Minnesota. Like, I think they could absolutely contend in the NFC North, at least for a playoff spot or a wild card. But what's important, and who knows, maybe Russ will be a little different after this whole Denver experience. Like, there is part of me that thinks he could be a good guy to help a younger quarterback. Like in the past, I knew he was probably a bit of a diva and all that, but I think if you're bringing him in, he's on a reclamation tour right now. He's got to play well, but he's also got people. He needs people to be speaking about him in a better light than they were coming out of Seattle and certainly in the first year in Denver right now. So anyways, this will be fun. We'll keep our eye on those NFL offseason specials, and then I'm sure they'll have some more for free agency as we get closer to next week.
We got a little bit of time here. Huss has Winnipeg Sports Talk coming up in about 20 minutes. It is a pretty good slate in the National Hockey League tonight, Huss. So let's slide on over there. When Huss heads out, we'll slide on in and take a look at some of the exclusives. I'll lay those out for you. Edmonton Sports Talk, the parlay is already up there as well on the Oilers game. I'll get to that a little bit later on as well. But Huss, what are you liking tonight in the National Hockey League, buddy? What jumps off the page for you? I'll get the goalies set up here.
Let's take a quick look. I mean, it's funny. Florida is in Jersey. They just beat the Rangers last night. Jersey fired their coach. They are can we expect a new coach bump and the Devils to maybe take advantage of the Panthers on the second end of back-to-backs? I know Simon Nemec is being is benched for tonight's game. He's going to get a view from the press box. The funny thing is that the Panthers are just so damn good.
They're just a wagon.
They are, and they're a minus 125.
Yeah.
Schedule-wise, not a great spot for Florida. Everything else, though, maybe pretty hard. Now, I imagine they'll go with the backup tonight because Bob's been playing so much, and I know Maurice loves to ride his goalies. I mean, I think he was the guy that gave Arturs Urbe 79 games in one season, but.
It should be Anthony Stolars, though. It should be Stolars. I'll give you the goalies here, what we got confirmed so far. In that game, Akira Schmid is confirmed to start for the Devils. Anthony Stolars for the Florida Panthers. Columbus and Pittsburgh, Tristan Jarry. Jet Greaves will start between the pipes for the Columbus Blue Jackets tonight. Sorokin for the Islanders. Hofer right now listed but unconfirmed against the Blues. Of course, they played last night as well. Stuart Skinner listed as likely for the Edmonton Oilers. He'll get that start tonight. Linus Allmark after Swayman played last night. He'll get the start tonight. Montreal Canadiens, Jake Allen is confirmed. UC Saros for the red-hot Nashville Predators listed as likely. Connor Hellebuck confirmed for the Jets tonight against Joey Decord for the Kraken. Connor Ingram will go for the Coyotes. Soderblom unconfirmed for the Hawks. Jake Ottinger at this point unconfirmed for the Dallas Stars. Kaapo Kähkönen is confirmed for the San Jose Sharks. And then the later game tonight, Canucks and Kings. That should be a pretty good game later on tonight too. Right now, Talbot and Demko are listed, but both are unconfirmed.
As far as tonight goes, well, I certainly like Nashville.
Yeah, I was just going to say, as I was reading those starters, I said, oh, we got to get the number on Nashville. What's the number on Nashville right now?
And here's the thing. They're minus 202. What are they in reg?
Minus 127 in regulation.
You know what? I mean, I would be tempted on the puck line. I mean, they've been scoring at a crazy rate right now too, but maybe the Predators in regulation. This is the last stand for the Penguins as well. Columbus played last night. They're back at it, traveling, second end of a back-to-back. This is kind of last call for the Pittsburgh Penguins. I don't trust them at all right now, but I would be tempted. And again, at minus 239, that's a bit much. Minus 143 in regulation, it's plus 108 on the puck line at minus 1.5. That might be a little bit much.
Yeah.
But anyway, certainly in on that. I mean, if we wanted to keep riding with Florida, they just keep going. And a minus 125 is a pretty nice number.
You just don't get the Panthers very often at that number. I don't care what it is, road or away, right? But they're looking at the scheduling situation here tonight.
Kieran Schmid can't make a save. And I'll give Maurice's team a lot of credit too. They've been so consistent. Like they've been on 8 and 9 game winning streaks before. Like I see no reason why they can't pull that one off tonight. The Blues Islanders game is, and again, I guess St. Louis was in Philly last night, so they're right back at it tonight against the Islanders. Islanders absolutely have to have that game. They're minus 178 on the money line. I do like them in that situation. I'll keep the Jets game out of this because we are going to put we are going to do a little parlay, WST parlay on that with the hottest defenseman in the league, Josh Morrissey. I think we might be putting a touch on over 1.5 points tonight for Morrissey.
Oh, really?
Okay. He's not fire. Plus 360 if you want to do that separately, by the way. Just looking at these numbers right now. And player goals in this one. Kyle Connor plus 153. Mark Scheifele plus 195. Ehlers plus 255. Still waiting to see. That's the other huge thing on Ehlers. Like everyone is just out of their minds because Ehlers isn't on the top line. Well, he was on the top line. Then Bones didn't like what he saw in the first 2 periods of the Buffalo game. So he swapped Ehlers and Nemetsnikov. Nemetsnikov had a monster game. They scored 3 goals in the third period win. Is everyone pumped about the win? No. They're mad that Ehlers wasn't on the top line in the third period. I
love Canadian hockey markets, man. It's the best.
Yeah, it's I will say this. I think for the Jets in their best incarnation, it does have Ehlers on that top line at some point right now. But I think they've been really trying to get him clicking with Sean Monahan. It got switched up in that Carolina game when it seemed like everything was going out the window and they were down 3-0, and it sort of was the catalyst to start that entire bit. But I mean, listen, I do like the Jets at home. Hellebuck's in net. Seattle played last night. They've got to travel. So I guess if we wanted to put the Jets,
I'm looking at a couple so we like Florida, we like Nashville and reg. You brought up the Pittsburgh Penguins. Couple of trends here from Rod Z, the old trendy Rod in the nasty chat. Columbus is 0-16 in their last 16 games at PPG Paints Arena in Pittsburgh. They've lost 16 in a row there. And he also points out that Nashville has covered 8 straight puck lines, which is quite the run for the Nashville Predators as well.
I mean, which is crazy. They've won 8 in a row, and this isn't like getting shootout wins.
No.
And they've got Montreal tonight, who I guess there's always a chance there's maybe a little bit of
it's minus 127 in regulation is not a bad number anyway for Nashville, right? But what would be the Pittsburgh
No,
play then? Do you want to just take? You want Pittsburgh and reg?
Pittsburgh and reg at minus 143.
Okay, yeah. So that would be minus 143 Pittsburgh and reg. Florida minus 125 on the road, and then Nashville minus 127 in reg at home. What's that number into? I'm writing these down. I know
447.
447.
Yeah,
that's gonna be 5-1. Then we'll get that up to 5-1. So I like that. You feel good about that?
Yeah, I like it. I'm in.
I think so. I think that's a nice little number there. So we're not going to get on it, but thoughts on the Kings and Canucks tonight? What do you think about that one?
Well, we were having a lot of fun betting against the Kings there for a while.
We were.
I think they've sort of gotten their act together a little bit. They seem to be in a much better place right now. Let me just go back to that here. What's the number here? Vancouver.
It's like
it's
pretty much a pick 'em, yeah.
And did you say it's Demko?
It's
Demko
they're listed
Talbot?
right now as unconfirmed Demko Talbot.
Well, as I said, I probably won't be on this.
Yeah,
game
I'm staying
because
away from it too.
It feels like a coin flip. But gun to my head, I think I'd maybe go with Vancouver.
Yeah.
Just because I think they're a better team than LA. And again, LA's had so many underwhelming performances this year. Oh my God, the Stars get the Sharks again. They just played the Sharks on Saturday.
Says Winnipeg guy.
Yeah.
What?
Well, we're tied to them.
What is this?
Well, tied right now for first, but the Jets have 3 games in hand, which is significant. I mean, at their pace right now, that's basically more than 4 points. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that'll be a good one to check in on afterwards. How about the Coyotes and minus 235 favorite?
I saw somebody in the
home?
chat on the Coyotes tonight. I really like what we put together here, though. Nashville, Florida, Pittsburgh, regulation money line. I like that one tonight. Yeah, the Coyotes minus 235. Chicago on the second half of back-to-back after getting spanked 5-0 in
They're so
Colorado.
Done. They're so done right now. The season can't end soon enough for soon enough. And I think I saw some of the fellas talking about just some props for that game. Mateus Maselli minus 205 to get a point. Schmaltz minus 240. Bedard minus 163. Arizona was actually in on, I think maybe that was like number 11 of their 12 losses in a row here in Winnipeg. That Michelli actually was really he was impressive. He scored a really nice backdoor goal. He's plus 275 to score, but minus 205. So obviously they're thinking assists.
Thinking there's assists coming there, yeah.
More than anything. His assist number, he's number 1 on the assist number at minus 140. So that will tell you on it. Anyways, I'm not going to spend too much time doing props on the Coyotes Blackhawks game because then I'll have to pay attention to it. Those teams are basically done. However, before we go, a quick look this afternoon. If you want to get in and throw TSN on for a little bit of Briar action, you've got Kevin Cooey. He's a minus 250 favorite against Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia's been playing really, really well. I mean, I think you have to expect that the Cooey rink is going to win a few of these games coming out.
Yeah,
for sure. But I mean, with the fact that they're basically done already and just playing out the string, maybe it's a little less of a reliable bet. Although this bet at the beginning, if these guys played in the first round, it probably would have been something like minus 750 for Cooey as opposed to minus 250. Schlesinski from Alberta is taking on Mike McEwen in the Saskatchewan rink. Schlesinski's had a couple big wins, a couple ugly losses. Mike McEwen's been playing really well. He was somewhat fortunate to get done. I wouldn't be surprised, and I wouldn't even mind Alberta on the rock line plus 2.5
at minus
there.
139.
Yeah. Nunavut, Canada is
the rock line 7.5.
It's a stay away.
Yeah.
It's a stay away. But then PEI Quebec And PEI's been like, I know Quebec is a favorite in this game. PEI's had a great start so far. And when I saw the odds come out yesterday, this one was even bigger. This was like minus 147 for Quebec, and I think plus 110 for PEI. So it has moved a little bit. I might take the underdogs there. They got a little bit of run. Maybe we'll do a little geez, I can't put these in with these hockey games. Plus 236. Alberta Shushinsky plus 2.5.
And the
PEI to win. PEI to win. There we go. There's our afternoon special.
And Dunstone Botcher later tonight, which should be a good one.
Yeah. What do we have there? Oh, well, I'll be riding with Matty Dunstone, but that's a very, very tough one for him. And the Carruthers rink lost their first game to BC this morning in an extra end 9-8. So they've got their first. So everyone's lost. Or has Botcher lost?
Yeah,
yet?
Botcher lost. Yeah, missed a draw to the button yesterday. So
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So I'll tell you what, it's wide out. It's been a lot more interesting first 3 days than we've had in any Briar I can remember. So bring it on. But it's all there. Hot Dog's doing a crazy job putting up all the evening draws are up as well. Feature game, Dunstone Botcher, Manitoba plus 115, Botcher minus 154. Carruthers minus 588 and minus 3.5 on the rock line against New Brunswick. Northern Ontario versus BC. BC's the favorite in that one, which is interesting because Northern Ontario is on a real roll. They were the team that beat Botcher. And it's plus 1.5 for Northern Ontario, albeit minus 182. And then Yukon versus Ontario, the big favorite. And it's funny, the Cooey on top of the board is Northwest Territories and Jamie Cooey.
Yeah, that's crazy to see one Cooey up at the top and the other one down at the bottom. What a twist there.
He is a beauty. I partied with him extensively at the Olympic trials back in Regina. Was it Regina? No, Saskatoon a couple years ago, back with our old pal Chris Abbott. And Cooey was around quite a bit cheering on Kevin, not in the event. But he's one of those guys, he gets in every year, but they've been getting killed. He only won one game at the Briar last year.
And look at this year.
He's now in first place at 4-1. And we could have a Cooey. We could have a Cooey in the playoffs, but not Kevin, who everyone expected for it. So anyways, it'll be good. But yeah, enjoy the show and enjoy the game tonight. We'll have lots to get to tomorrow on the show coming off game night for both the Oilers and the Jets.
It should be good. Before you go, Huss, I just want to read this to you after your line about the Briar is drunk. I tweeted it out, and Bones on Twitter goes, that's a great opening line for a haiku. The Briar is drunk. Regina, drunken city. Hard, hurry hard. That's pretty good.
Hey, I'm here for random haikus.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, one thing I didn't know, just to add to the insanity of the Briar.
Yeah.
I don't know what the weather's like in Regina, but the roof started leaking this morning, and they had to bring a pail onto the ice and stop one of the matches for a considerable period of time. I don't know how it got rectified or whatever, but
oh boy.
Yeah, we had a roof leaking. You can imagine what that would do to pristine curling
the
ice.
pebble.
The most important.
Don't mess with the
year.
pebble. You can't mess with the pebble.
Yeah, the ice makers are working overtime right now to get things ready for the afternoon draw. I would imagine.
Have a good Winnipeg Sports Talk today. Us enjoy that Jets game tonight. We'll break it all down. We'll talk some Arnold Palmer tomorrow as well, right here on the Lock Shop. Talk to you then, buddy.
API. Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about all the winners. By the way, 100-1 for Eckroat. The shortest winner on the PGA Tour this year was that Knapp, who was 40-1. And even he was somewhat like a who is this guy for a lot of people. It has been Dart City this year in the PGA Tour. So I think we might have to do that. Just
throw a couple darts.
And right around that 100-1 number and see what happens at the Arnie tournament. But yes, I will talk to you tomorrow, my man.
There you go. That is Huss, Winnipeg Sports Talk, starting in about 5 minutes. We got two guys in goalie coming up in about 5 minutes as well. I did want to pass along, though, that the Edmonton Sports Talk parlay is ready to go if you go to the exclusives page at Coolbet. If you're new to Edmonton Sports Talk, you're new to Coolbet, and you want to dive in, we always say stay cool, bet responsibly with Coolbet. Don't get carried away. But you can go to coolbet.com, sign up for an account, and you'll get a 100% deposit bonus on your initial deposit up to $200 at Coolbet. The EST parlay for tonight, Connor McDavid over 1.5 points, Bouchard and Nuge both with a point, and the Edmonton Oilers to win, and we got it at plus 450. which is pretty good. That's like a good power play for the Oilers, and then a little bit more from Connor McDavid. So that's the EST parlay. It is locked and loaded. We'll revisit it on two guys and a goalie coming up here. But McDavid, 2+ points. Bouchard and Nuge each with a point tonight, and the Edmonton Oilers to win. So we don't even need a goal from any of them tonight. Just some points from Nuge, Bouchard, and Connor McDavid, and the Oilers to win, where they're -122 on the money line tonight on the road. You get that at +450. Coming up next, we will get to two guys and goalie, myself, Cass, and Gager on the Tuesday of deadline week. No shortage of things to discuss on that front. That is on the way. Sam Gagner has been placed on waivers. Okay, we will get to that coming up here on two guys and a goalie. Don't go anywhere. Thank you very much for joining us on Lock Shop today. Good luck tonight, and we will talk to you tomorrow.